ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौ भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So the final topic, the fifth topic of our mind management series, titled as Cultivating Tolerance. So far we have discussed about how the mind, intelligence and senses interact with each other. We have also discussed about how we don't want to do certain things, but we are forced against our will to act in a certain manner and so forth. And in one of the previous sessions, we had a discussion on the topic of habits, how habits are created and how we can create good habits and how we can break bad habits. Now, this is another topic. I have just taken this topic particularly, which is not exactly as a part of a mind management series, but because many times people have question on the subject of tolerance, because it is again considered with the way we think and the way our mind functions. So if I just briefly speak about the word tolerance in the beginning, and then we'll take a look at it. It is not that, for example, I have written cultivating tolerance, so which means we're going to also talk about the need of it. If you take a look at our culture from the beginning of the time, tolerance is a very integral part of our culture. Just like, Srila Prabhupada gives an example in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse number 14. Just like a mother, regardless of how hot it is, she'll still go to the kitchen and prepare a nice food for the child. And it involves tolerance. It's not like modern day societies where you just go and bake it or microwave it, or you place an order through Fizzy, Wizzy, whatever they call as Ziggy. Some applications are there. Swiggy. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I don't use smartphones. I didn't use. So Swiggy, you place an order and you get your food. So times have changed, but yet, despite of whatever the situation, people do tolerate. Although we need to have a proper understanding of how to cultivate. But I'll just give you an example how sometimes people tolerate out of fear. Just like there was a person traveling in a train, it was a jam-packed train. Suddenly somebody came and stepped onto his feet. When somebody stepped onto his feet, the one who stepped onto the feet of another person, he was a very weak person. He was short, small height, and a little slim person than the person on whose feet he has stepped. So the person whose feet was stepped, he began to scream. "Dikhai nahi deta tere ko, andhe ho gaya hai." And he began to chastise. So that fellow said, sorry, and he went away. Again, it was an example of a Bombay local train. You understand if you have traveled. After another 20 minutes in the journey, again his feet was stepped by. But this time he did not even utter a word. So the next passenger said, after a while, when his feet was stepped and he walked away, the person walked away, he asked, "Sir, what happened? In the first case, you became so angry. Now you have all the more reason to be angry, but you did not say anything." He said, "देखा नहीं था, मेरे हाइट में डबल था, कितना हट्टा कट्टा था. अगर मैं चीख जाता तो एक हाथ दे देता काल के नीचे तो." So people tolerate out of fear. That's the point I'm trying to make. So there are different reasons, but this is not the highest virtue of tolerance. Sometimes people tolerate out of their own selfish interest and various reasons. So let's take a look why or what is the need of discussing this topic today. Today we are living in the time of impatient generation. It is said sometimes people also tolerate because they have a positive attitude. But you cannot have positive attitude in all situations. You know, remembering the example, uh, one person was traveling in a train again, and somebody asked him what's the time, and he said 1 o'clock. And the man who asked the time, he became really angry and he slapped him. So everyone was shocked. What happened? But this man who got slapped did not say anything. He was of blood group B positive. Always be positive. So when that incident happened after a while, uh, somebody asked, he says, sir, he asked you time and he said 1 o'clock. And he got so angry that he punched you or slapped you. Did not say anything because he was of the category of B positive blood group. He said, see, I'm so glad that I only said 1 o'clock. Imagine if I would have said 12 o'clock. He would have punched me 12 times. So, point is, imagine, okay, one of our devotee had got a cancer. And when he was getting diagnosed, so his doctor asked him, what is your blood group? And he said, B positive. So that kind of positivity and attitude is wonderful and nice. The point is, not everyone can maintain that positive outlook in such an extreme scenarios also. There is a way to deal with it that we should take a look at it. So first of all, what is the need of topic discussing this topic is we're living in the time of instant results. It's like impatient generation. Hate to wait. Have you seen people when there is a traffic signal? People become so restless, isn't it? Now imagine previous generations when there was not even vehicles. People would walk sometimes for days together to reach the relative's house. Now, when you can travel and reach the relative's house in 2 hours, and there few red light comes, person becomes so restless. So that's the situation. People don't want to wait. We are living in the times of instant communication, instant food, fast food. We're talking Swiggy, instant money, ATM. Now you have Paytm. You have Google Pay, instant entertainment at the fingertip. Everything is there. The smartphone gives you an experience as if you are a controller. On Apple, on Mac, you have Siri. So Siri is like your Maya Shakti, material energy. Like Krishna has his Maya Shakti, and you say, okay, Maya, do this. So a person having a Apple phone may say, okay, Siri, do this. And Google, you have Google Assistant. So you click on it and you say, okay, call up so and so person. And reply comes, yes, sir, calling. It further strengthens the idea. So that's the situation. So it's an impatient generation who hate to wait, they despise delays, so much so they want instant success, instant health, extra protein diet. Rather than going through the natural organic food, they take the protein supplement. Within a short time, they want to build their muscles and whatnot. Instant cures, promotion, happiness, everything they wanted immediately. Because they want it immediately, therefore they have become impatient. When it comes to tolerating, tolerance means something you have to wait for it. There is certain inconvenience you have to. Just like, whose mobile is ringing? Okay. Can you just kindly keep in silence? So it's good to give a break to a smartphone. So what was the point I was making? Just like if you look at the world around, the things doesn't happen like that. For example, instant success. Many times the young people, when they graduate from college, sometimes they feel like, oh, I'm not making an impact in the society. They've hardly worked, even hardly finished their apprenticeship, 6 months training in the company, and they think like they should be making a mark in the society. So people, they have the vision of the result that they want. They know what they want at times, but they don't know how much struggle they have to undergo to achieve that. Yes or no? To graduate and to get a job, you had to study for 20 years of your life, at least 15 years of your life. It's not that you're born and you got into IT job and you're coming on your toddler machine. The parent drop you on the main gate and you swipe your card and you start your IT job. Doesn't happen. You have to wait for it. So life's reality is different. We all are standing in a queue of life. Just like when a parents wants to have a child, whatever they do, they have to wait for 9 months. maybe 7, 8 months these days. Sometimes it happens, but you have to wait for 9 months. Now, how much ever you want your child to become like Sachin Tendulkar, you have to wait for him to become a teenager. You cannot just expect that to happen overnight, isn't it? These are the laws of the nature. You cannot change it. For example, when you sow a seed, now you cannot say, I have sowed a seed, by tomorrow morning I should have a mango because a mango seed. Just like there is a famous Chinese bamboo. The interesting thing about this Chinese bamboo, it teaches a very important lesson. When you sow the seed of this Chinese bamboo, for the next 5 years, nothing happens. For not 5 days, not 5 months. For 5 long years, you have to keep just watering it. And the next 5 months, it sprouts and it grows into huge bamboo. For 5 years, nothing happened. For the next 5 months, immediately turns out to be a bamboo. If you look around in the nature, nature teaches you some very, very important lessons. Not everything happens immediately. We are creating a kind of an imaginary world for us where we think things happen just like that. No, it's not the fact, it's not the truth about it. For an example, the truth of life is something like this. So interesting video. Long ago I saw it. Somebody has sent it to me, and I was just wondering. They're so correct, isn't it? Take a look at it. I'm trying to get something in my life. We have so many wants. Somebody wrote an interesting poem, "The Truth About a Man," and he said, "Man is nothing but a fool. When it is cool, he wants it hot. When it is hot, he wants it cool. He always wants what is not." Interesting, isn't it? So we are not properly trained in our consciousness to understand how this whole world functions. Our problem today is we have been given an experience and understanding that I am the controller. I create my destiny. I control situations, but we don't control situations. Now, how many have an experience when you're driving a car, you're stuck in a traffic jam, and people behind you are honking, honking, and honking? How many have that experience? And you feel like telling him, अबे उड़ के जा उड़ के आया ना अब जब ट्रैफिक जैम है तो मैं क्या करूं मैंने थोड़ा ट्रैफिक लगाया yes or no you get frustrated you like what fly what else can I do now not think about it what's going on in the head of that person what is he thinking right now he considers himself to be a controller and he wants to change a situation which he is not able to change it so what happens when you cannot do what you want to do, you become frustrated. And that frustration is being expressed through the way of honking. You keep honking, you keep irritating. He's just expressing his frustration out of it. And what is the frustration about? I believe I am the controller, things should happen the way I want it. How can I be stuck into a traffic? It should not be. Now imagine what could be an alternative response to it. You're stuck in a traffic, no problem. Sit and relax, switch on the AC and hear nice kirtan. Have a good time. Because you know that the traffic is not dependent on you. The traffic signal doesn't changes according to you. You're not a Hiranyakashipu who raise your eyebrows and the sun and moon would dance to your tunes. That ain't going to happen, isn't it? But people think today like that. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Matra spashastu kanteya shitoshna sukadukada agama payano nityastam titikshva bharataha. Very interesting verse. Very, very interesting verse. So, Hare Krishna. What is Krishna trying to say? This is one of the very first instructions that Krishna gave to Arjuna. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada. All our experience of happiness and distress comes because of sense perception. When there is a hot, we experience because of... Have you seen people, when it is cold, some people are dressed up in double jacket and some people are just walking around in a sweatshirt. And similarly, when it is hot, So still you may find alternatively person is dressed up and somebody feels so hot that he's feeling like breathless. So if the climatic condition is same as a physically we are same, why we are giving the extreme alternative responses? Just because of how our sense perceives it. It is a sense perception. My senses are perceiving in a certain manner, because of which I'm giving a different response. So therefore Krishna says Shitoshna Sukha Dukkada. Krishna says Titikshva Bharata. Titikshva means tolerate. A son of Bharata or Sion of Bharata, tolerate. Tolerate what? Your sense perception. Sometimes your sense perception gives you a horrible experience. Sometimes it gives you a pleasurable experience. How do you tolerate? Know the fact. If the sunrise has happened, sunset is going to happen. If the summer season is there, winter season will come. If there is a light, dark will follow. Things always change. It never remains same. Time shall pass. For an example, there was one barbarian autocratic king who had arrested many, many criminals. Some were criminals, but some were not. And 2 days from now, the king's birthday was coming. And he decided on my birthday I should do something special for which the mankind would remember me. He thought, okay, why don't I set all the prisoners free? And he announced to all the prisoners that on my birthday I would set you free. Everyone was so joyful. Finally, our looks like king has a change of heart. He had put many innocent people also behind the bars. But that was marked with an asterisk, conditions apply. You understand, right? There is something asterisk, the conditions apply. And the conditions apply was, if and only if you can give me a gift which can make me happy when I'm sad and can make me sad when I'm happy. You got the point? So let's ask our engineers, educated engineers, double BTech, triple MTech, and quadruple PhD maybe. You have to give a gift. When somebody is sad can become happy, and when somebody is happy can become sad. And everyone came together, started doing brainstorming. He said, "Kya re? Aisi condition lagai. Now what do I do? How do we figure it out?" And then everyone began to think. Anyone here knows a solution. What gift can you give to such a man? Well, make a wildest of the guess. What would you? A gift, when you have it in your hand, the person who is sad will become happy. A person who is happy will become sad. Okay, I know it's a difficult question. You're not supposed to ask a question. Answer a question. Why are you asking a question? Mirror. Okay. Well, I don't know how a sad will become happy will become sad. So, of course, a wise man was needed. A wise man entered the scene and he said, I know what gift can be given. And he gifted the king. First of all, how many of you want to know the answer? Raise your hand. Okay, good. Huh? I am a brahmachari, I have no experience. I have no idea. So, for the sake of all an audience, somebody said maybe it's wife. Makes you happy when you're sad, makes you sad when you're happy. I said I have no idea. I'm a brahmachari. I have no experience of this relationship. Okay. I don't know. Could be. So this wise man gave the king a ring. Okay. Now ring. And whenever he would see the ring, when he's happy, he would become sad. And when he's sad, he'll become happy. So what was so special with the ring? There was a message engraved on the top of the ring. This time shall pass too. Please understand what it says. This time shall pass too. So if you are too elated, Shitoshna Sukadukada Agama Paino Nityas. It is temporary. If you're so happy, don't be so happy because time will change, the seasons will change. If you're so sad, don't be so morose, no problem. Things gonna change. A good time will come like that. So, Tams Titikshva Bharata. So tolerating distress, tolerating suffering makes sense. Why Krishna is saying even tolerate happiness? Would you want to tolerate happiness? Tolerating sadness, frustration, suffering makes sense. But why would anyone want to tolerate happiness? You want to rejoice happiness. You want to celebrate happiness. But it is said, tolerate. Sukhe dukhe samay kritva labha labha jaya jaya. Arjuna, see that with equal vision. So I don't know what's up with the online audience. Let me just a little bit go to them and see what would they think. So, why would Krishna say tolerate happiness? Any online audience would like to give their thoughts on it, what it means, tolerating happiness. Anyone here? Happiness is temporary, okay?
And when we are happy, we will be attached to the happiness.
Yes, good point. Great. Few things happen when you lose control on yourself in the time when good times are going on. First thing happens is you become complacent about life. You don't take life seriously, yes or no? You think that's it. This is what life is. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do it. It's a complacency. Second thing, this complacent behavior leads to proud. I am so great. I have accomplished so much. For example, Srila Prabhupada quoted one example of a man from his time who was very rich, very wealthy. But due to First World War that happened at that time, because of which somehow he lost all his business or all his property was usurped by the government. Something happened. From a rich man, story of rags to riches, this was a story of rich to rag, who was very wealthy, became a pauper on the street, a beggar on the street. He could not tolerate. He committed suicide. So, why? One is you become proud. Just like the bad times shall pass and good times should come, similarly, good times always never remain. He became too attached to his wealth, thinking that can never be taken away from me. When it was taken away, he could not tolerate the loss. And he took an extreme step of committing suicide. So, three things about tolerating happiness. One, it makes you proud. Second, complacent, which means it makes you forget about the truth of life. And what was the other point about happiness? And attached. You become too attached to it. But the situation would never remain like that forever. Simple example, you have a particular kind of physical well-being today. The level of physical well-being that you have today would not be same 20 years from now, yes or no? So you just cannot continue living the life in the same way. That's the point here. Let's go back to the slide deck again. So therefore Krishna says, learn to tolerate sukha dukha. Sitoshna sukha dukkha agma paino nityas. So let's take a look on two subject matters. So when do I tolerate? And what am I supposed to tolerate? If we're talking about it, so when to tolerate? And what to tolerate? Of course, we cannot tolerate everything. No? There is something has to be classified. So we're trying to have a discussion. So when to tolerate? There are three situations that we have no other alternative but to tolerate. What are the three situations? The first situation is when circumstances are uncontrollable. It is beyond your control. Just like the traffic signal or the traffic jam. What can you do about it? You don't control situations and circumstances. There's a story, the two friends who were going out to another village. And when the night happened, they decided to camp in the forest. They opened their tent and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, one of the friends woke up and was looking at a beautiful sky. And then he tapped on the shoulder of another friend who was sleeping. And he woke him up. And he said, ऊपर देख क्या दिखाई देता है? तो बोला बहुत सारे तारे. तो इससे क्या समझ आता है? He said, how beautiful is the sky is. And he said, Einstein की बोला टेंट चोरी हो गया है. तुझे वो तू तारों को गिन रहा बैठे बैठे तारे इसलिए दिख रहे हैं कि टेंट नहीं है. Now, can you do anything about it? Now, where in the pitch dark will you run around? So that's the point for saying when circumstances are uncontrollable. Just as I said, I give an example. You're stuck in a traffic jam. Why to honk? Roll over your windows. If you feel hot, switch on the AC. play a nice kirtan and relax. You can make the same occasion as an opportunity which was otherwise supposed to demoralize you, was meant to demoralize you. Just like, there's an interesting thing if you reflect on it. It's the same ocean water which makes the ship float, and it is the same ocean water which sinks the ship also. Yes or no? Isn't it? On the same ocean water, the ship can float, travel to thousands of miles, and the same ocean water can sink the ship. In what situation the ship can sink? Only when there is a hole in the ship. The problem is not with the water. The water is still the same in either condition. The problem is with the ship. If there is a hole in the ship will sink. The water have not changed. Similarly, when we get affected by the circumstances, that is where we become demoralized. Otherwise, if we don't get affected, the same circumstances would pave a way for success for us, or would allow us to live a meaningful life. You're making a point? So, where is the problem that needs to be fixed with? With the ship. That's the point. Lessons from Ramayana. I just make one very small incident. Today morning also we're speaking from Ramayana only. I'll make another point from Ramayana. I really like it, and I often say when I'm guiding people when they are becoming restless or when they're facing that challenge. Think about it. Lord Ram's wife, consort, lovable partner, Mother Sita, has been kidnapped. She has been abducted by a ruthless man. In fact, a rapist, Ravana. Lord Ram ties up a relationship with Sugriva, helps him recover his kingdom. And then when it was time for Sugriva to send his army to search for Sita, which was an agreement between Lord Ram and Sugriva, then the 4 months long rainy season starts. Very interesting. And what did Lord Ram said at that point of time? Lord Ram said, Sugriv, now the rainy season is starting. Now this is not today's rainy season, it was that time, which was very, very turbulent, probably difficult, because of which Lord Ram said, now you cannot continue with the search operations. We cannot do anything about it. So what do? Halt. After 4 months, we should start the search operations. This is not a police telling to his police staff, because the problem is not his problem, is somebody else. When you don't own a problem, when you're not a victim, then it is very easy to make some rational comments and judgments. But when you are a decision maker and when you are a victim, can you make a statement like this? Let's wait for 4 months? Not possible. But Lord Ram did that. What lesson generally do I derive from this? I would like you to reflect on it when I make a comment. Certain situations have to be left on time to heal itself. We should not try to find solution for everything in the life. Our greatest problem, another problem, because we are so much deeply rooted with an idea, I'm a controller, I'm a proprietor, and I'm God, that I need to find solution of everything. There is no need for you to find solution of everything, because you are not qualified for that. You cannot do it. Is not within your limits. Lord Ram being the Lord, yet he said, let the time fix it. So what should we do about it in our life, isn't it? So Lord Ram said, yes. So many times I say, wait, you don't have to really act on it right now. Give it a time. And maybe after time, it will work out. How many of you have that experience? Certain things really got fixed out because I allowed to give it a certain time. How many of you have that experience? What our online fellows think, although I cannot see anyone here. So, with your very enthusiastic participation, so I have decided from next week onward, we'll have no online program. Because anyways, we can't interact with the online audience now. So, Evolve Pune would close all online initiative from next week. Anyways, the world is open and we'll have only offline programs. So we don't have to do all this arrangement, and I can just focus and talk to one audience. So, and those of you who are really serious about it, you can come in person here, or wherever you live, you can go and attend program there. Okay? So, थोड़े घबरा के लोग only. Okay, all right. Now they started switching on the cameras. So that was the point, lessons for the mind. So, first situation, when circumstances are beyond our control. Second situation, when to tolerate. Oh, didn't happen. When people are unchangeable. I'll give one example of a teacher student relationship. When people are unchangeable. Once a teacher asked a student, Beta, I'll make it in Hindi because it sounds better in Hindi. छोटी मधुमक्खी क्या देती है? Student said, शहद. गाय तुम्हें क्या देती है? The student said, दूध. और मोटी भैंस तुम्हें क्या देती है? And everyone said, homework. Hare Krishna, this is just lighten it up, okay? Just lighten it up. So the point I'm making, let's go back to the slide again. When people are unchangeable, there are certain, you can't, we were talking again today morning on this aspect of expectation. Sometimes we have this very big issue of, having an alter ego, as I say. Person should be like me. As I think, as I feel, as I will, they should also behave like this. But that doesn't happen. Let's take a more serious example. Yudhishthira Maharaj and Bhim, particularly. Very interesting relationship if you will analyze it. Yudhishthira Maharaj was cool, composed, sattvic, sattva person, dharmic, which is totally unlike Bhima. Bhima was very, I would say, restless. He was also proud of his valor and strength. And he had a very strong, hot Kshatriya blood. He'll get angry at anything. Kshatriyas, they have the nature. And of course, he would not do any sinful activities, but he had that arrogance and, always thinking of fighting, destroy this. And so many times Yudhishthir was a decision maker, which would never go with Bhima. Because that's not Bhima's personality. For example, when Pandavas were in Vanvas, this is just at the end of the Vanvas, Duryodhan came with an intention to taunt Pandavas and ended up getting taunted. He got abducted by Gandharvas. Duryodhan's party got defeated. I hope all of you would know the details. I'm not going into details. So some of the soldiers who survived, they came running to the Pandavas camp, which was across the river. And they came and they pleaded to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Now, Yudhishthira Maharaj is a forest dweller. He's not sitting with his army. But he knew Yudhishthira Maharaj is a Kshatriya after all they living in a forest. So he came to Yudhishthira, please, King Yudhishthira Maharaj, please save our king, Duryodhan, etc., etc. They said. So what did Yudhishthira said? When Bhima heard it, he was like, ha, 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 mujhe jo karna tha, Gandharva ne kar diya, ha, ha, ha. He was happy. And Yudhishthira Maharaj became very serious. Oh, my younger brother have got kidnapped? And Bhima said, "Abhay, kisko bola younger bhai? Kisko bola?" Yudhishthira said, "My younger brother have got kidnapped." And then Yudhishthira looked at Bhima. Bhima, मेरी तरफ नहीं देखने का. मुझे पता तुम क्या कहने वाले. मेरी तरफ नहीं देखने. Bhima, you should go and save your brother. And Bhima said, "Are you crazy? Which brother are you talking about it? Because of that brother you are here." And then Yudhishthira said, Bhima, full cool and composed. Bhima, हम परिवार में 105 भाई हैं. 100 कौरवस, 5 सॉरी बाहर के दृष्टिकोण में हम 105 भाई हैं. हो सकता है हमारे बीच में थोड़ा सा मन मुटाव हो. खेलते खेलते मन मुटाव हो जाता है. खेलते खेलते मन मुटाव हो जाता है. पत्नी की बेइज्जती कर दी, जंगल में भेज दिया, तेरे को मन मुटाव हो जाता है. तो Yudhishthira understood this fellow is out of control. So then Yudhishthira said, okay, fine. Arjun, you go. Now Bhima thought Arjun is going to follow whatever Yudhishthira said. So Bhima said, no, I'll also go. See, he was thinking, if I get a chance, I'll finish him there only. and I'll come and report an accident case. उसको गधे में बिठा के लेकर आ रहा था, गधे ने धक्का मार दिया, गिर गया, खाई में गिर गया. So he thought because Arjun is a younger brother now, so he can make a case out of it here. So he tried that, but nonetheless didn't happen. Arjun didn't allow that. So point is, when people are unchangeable, you can't do anything about it. You have to deal with it. And all of you would have an experience, yes or no? Particularly those who are married. You know, so because we live with somebody, has grown up in an entirely different culture and whatnot, comes with a different set of belief system, practices. We all have an experience, and then now you cannot expect that person to just to be like you. you know uh, I would say, even if that person is able to acknowledge your value system, you should be grateful. But to expect that person not only to acknowledge but adapt my value system is too much to ask. It's too difficult to happen. Just like Bhima he could acknowledge Yudhishthir's value system but could not adapt to it. Similarly, Yudhishthir knew very well the value system of Bhima but never adopted it. He never became passionate. He stick to what was his personality. Third situation, when to tolerate. When problems are unexplainable. How many of you have that experience? May not be a recent one, but before, traveling by a flight, and the flight attendant just 20 minutes before says, "So we're going to land. Delhi airport is coming another 20 minutes." And 40 minutes passes by. There is no sign of flight landing. And then after a while, the flight captain makes an announcement. Sorry to inform you, there is a lot of traffic on the airport. We are not getting permission to land, so we're just hovering over the airport. We might have to continue for another 10 minutes. How many think you're gonna get into anxiety? And have seen this anxiety? Yes or no? People become so restless. People become so restless. Now, what can you do about it? Yeah, we're talking about the point when problems are unexplainable. What can you do about it? Somebody falls sick. Today heart attacks have become so common a thing. Now, can you do anything about it? Somebody goes through with it. What can you do about it? So we just have to tolerate. So these are the situations which you are forced to tolerate. Let me make a point now. You cannot do anything. When circumstances, when it comes to problems, when it comes to people, you only one option: tolerate. Either you tolerate out of fear or either you tolerate out of any reason, but you cannot do anything because you cannot change any of these things, right? So these three things, if we are into it, we have no other alternative but to tolerate. So what to tolerate? Let's go to the another statement now on when to tolerate. Of course, this was when to tolerate. We're talking about the three situations: when circumstances are uncontrollable, when people are unchangeable, and when problems are unexplainable. We need to tolerate, but the question comes now: how to tolerate? How do I tolerate the situations which are unfavorable? How do I tolerate certain people who sometimes criticize me, insult me? Yes or no? When we said people are unexplainable, unchangeable, how do you do? So how do we deal with this is the next subject matter. How do we tolerate? So in this, we're going to look at four things, although it's three, but we're categorizing as four. Criticism means people. Criticism happens for people only, no? So what we have done it in the four sections: criticism, people, dualities, and calamities. How do we tolerate? And do we face challenges with these things only? By the way, is anyone feeling hot or you're okay? If anyone needs, we can switch on the fan or even AC is needed so they're comfortable. All right, let's take a look. I don't know, Suraj, your hand is up. Why your hand is up, I don't know. But even if there's a question, we'll take it at the end of the session. Let me have a presentation done, okay? So, criticism. Very interesting. I believe it was about Abraham Lincoln, and he became the president of the country. And when he went to the White House to address a press conference, so one of the Senate member criticized him, who was from the opposite party probably. And he said, "You see the shoes that I'm wearing? This was built by your father." Imagine, huh? You're the president of the country and somebody comes and तेरे बाप के द्वारा बनाया हुआ जूता पहन रहा हूं. So your father was a shoemaker. It's an insult, yes or no? How did Abraham Lincoln reply to it? Very interesting. And he said, "Yes, sir, I'm very glad. I'm happy to know. And the best part is, I acknowledge that I'm a son of a shoemaker. And I want to I acknowledge this. And the beauty and the fact and the glory of it is, I take a pride in it that I'm a son of a shoemaker, son of such a shoemaker that not only you, many people in this country wears a shoe made by my father. First. Second, he was such a man of perfection that nobody ever complained about the quality of his shoes. And third, my father taught me also how to make shoes. If you have a complaint, I can make a new pair for you." And that Senate member applauded. So, criticism, there are ways of looking at it, the ways of dealing with it. So, three things we're going to talk about it: improve, careful, and shelter. When we are criticized, what is our natural or default response? Anyone? When somebody finds faults with you, what is our first gesture, first response? Yes. What is that reaction? Of course, reaction. Anger. Sunny, go ahead, unmute yourself. If you can unmute. If not, allow me to give you right to unmute. 1 second, please. Now you can unmute. Yes, go ahead, Sunny. You have to unmute yourself. Hare Krishna. Yes, Sunny.
Justify that we are correct.
Yes. The first thing we do is justification. It's not that all criticisms are wrong. We can even take a look at the criticism as an opportunity to improve yourself. Yes or no? And if you look at it as an opportunity, maybe it will save your ship, which was meant to be sinked, to float. You're getting it, point? So, first aspect, go back to the slide deck, as you said, is improve. Look for an opportunity within yourself to see if there is an iota of truth about it. Be a little humble. Okay, maybe he's correct. And let me give an example. That brings us to the second aspect. Be careful. A very senior devotee of our movement, His Holiness Sir Maharaj. He was chanting in a temple, and one new devotee came and tapped on his shoulder and said, "Swamiji, you're not chanting properly." Now, that's a serious criticism. The one who's traveling around and teaching others how to do japa meditation, a young man comes and tells, "You're not chanting properly." What is His Holiness Sir Maharaj did? He carefully thought on it and began to think about it. And he worked on it, and he went on to write one of his very famous book called as Japa Reformation book. He took that as an opportunity, introspected on it. He wrote many books, but one of the best books which have helped many, many devotees is this Japa Reform books. So he realized that, okay, I've been criticized. I could take it as, I could be defensive. I'm a senior. I can chastise him. I can correct it. He could have done that. But he did a serious introspection on it and thought, what can I make out of it? Maybe I have to make certain improvements. Or maybe I can take it as an indication from the Lord that I need to do something about bringing improvements in others' japa. Either of the way, he went on to write the book called as Japa Reform book. Third, one is improve. Second is careful. And third is shelter. What is that? As you sow, so shall we reap. So, shelter here means to take guidance of the scriptures, to understand. First understanding is what I am facing today could be a reaction of my karma. I'm such a fault finder, I go around finding faults. So Krishna, to help me become a better person, is reflecting me today on my own behavior with others. So here shelter means to take shelter of the Lord, to take shelter of the holy names of the Lord, to take shelter of the wisdom of the Lord, and to deal with that criticism in the right spirit. So how do we deal with criticism? How do we tolerate criticism? Take Try to introspect. If there is an iota of truth, improve yourself. Do a careful introspection. If I can improve myself or help others. And third is take shelter of the Lord. And in any situation, try to make a progress rather than defending and justifying your actions. So that's about criticism. I, for improve yourself, C is to be careful, and S for shelter. Third, another aspect is now criticism. Let's talk about people. How do we deal with people? People are everywhere around us. How can one tolerate one's family members, friends? Sometimes it could be in-laws and whatnot. Create a lot of issues around us. Interesting story of a gold miner. This is one of the very famous gold miner out of America. So he was once interviewed and he was said, "How are you the most successful gold miner when you didn't have such advanced machinery also?" And he said, "Whenever I go for the purpose of mining, I never focus on the dirt which comes out. I'm always focused on the gold which I'm going to find." So what it means when it comes to dealing with people or tolerating people, always focus on the good that they have to offer you rather than looking at the bad they have for you. So just like this gold miner who would go and dig. Now, if you're collecting heaps of dirt, then you may find maybe some ounces of gold. It is not that you're going to get kgs of gold, then you get some ounces of dirt. Yes or no? What comes is the dirt, and then there is an ounce of gold. What matters, what made him successful was his focus. He did not lose a focus that there is a gold here and I should find it. Similarly, every one of us have something good within us. And there is certain thing bad about us. Our focus by default switches generally to how the other people are wrong, rather than how the other people are good, what good they can contribute. So the more we focus on something, that quality slowly comes within us. Similarly, if it dwells on people's fault, those faults will also develop within us. If we dwell on good quality of others, those good qualities would also surface within us. So how do we tolerate with people? This is one example. Other thing happens is idiosyncrasies, their strange behavior. When we are at a distance from each other, we don't see so many weaknesses of each other, isn't it? How many of you have experienced seeing that sometimes we talk more nicely, more affectionately to our friends who may be living at a distance than maybe with our spouse who's living with us in the same house? Have you had that experience? I'm not saying every day, but because there are a lot of chances of saying that this is wrong in you, this is right in you. Generally, we don't say anything right. We always say focus on the wrong. That's the problem. That's the point about it. So how do we deal with the idiosyncrasies? So as I said, to deal with any such aspect of dealing with or tolerating with people, we need to change our focus. Srila Prabhupada is a perfect example. His initial students were all hippies. By no means they were qualified for Brahminical culture to take to spiritual practice. They were so unclean that they would not take bath for months together. So how can you make them God conscious? It is said cleanliness is next to godliness. They're so unclean in their physical habits, in their thoughts and everything. Yet Srila Prabhupada accepted them. Why? Because he saw there was one potential. They were eager to learn and they liked the Swami. And Srila Prabhupada just found that good thing and he dug out the gold within them and made them a gold-like devotees. That's the point. So to deal with when it comes to tolerating with people, one is focus on the right. And when it comes to idiosyncrasies, their strange behavior, focus again on the right and learn to appreciate them. There's a very beautiful story of a small girl with freckles. You see the photo? This is called as freckles. This generally have seen in the West. India में तो generally I have not seen it. So many people have this kind of a dhabbe like that. It was a young girl, along with the school, there was a picnic trip. They went to a certain place, a zoo or a fun park. And all the kids lined up in a particular tent. They were decorating the faces of the kids. So when all the kids lined up, when the teachers made every kid stand in a line, in a queue, everyone was very excited. The young girls, they were going inside the tent, and then they come out very beautifully decorated. So one of the girl commented to this young girl, saying, looking at her freckles, she said, "Oh, nothing gonna change for you. You would still look ugly as you are." She couldn't tolerate that. Her heart was broken. She went running, came back to her home, and finally she went to her grandmother, quite old, 80 plus. And when she went to her grandmother, the grandmother began to speak. She asked, "What happened? Why are you crying?" And she continued the whole journey crying about what happened. She was so hurt. Though the young girl said, Nanny, one of my classmates said, I am so ugly that there's no use for me to get decorated or my face painted with decoration because I have this freckles." And then Nanny began to say, "Oh, freckles are the most beautiful things." And the girl said, "No, no, 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 Nanny, no, this is not right." And again, the nanny or the granny said, "No, beta, freckles are the most beautiful thing." When she repeated 3 times like that, the small daughter said, "No, Nanny, the freckles are not the most beautiful thing. There is something else which is more beautiful than freckles." So Nanny was surprised. She said, "Really? You're saying there is something more beautiful than freckles? I never knew that. What is that?" And the small girl said, "Wrinkles." You got the message? She was an 80-year-old lady who had a lot of wrinkles on her face. So Nanny lighted up the face of the small girl, and the small girl lighted up the face of the nanny. And what was that thing? A simple appreciation. Yes or no? So how do you deal with people? At times we need to learn to appreciate them. Don't get caught up with so much idiosyncrasies or the problems that they have. Learn to appreciate them. So people, focus on the strengths, not on the weakness, and neglect the weakness. And C, cultivate appreciation. F and C is the acronym for dealing with or tolerating people. Focus on strength, and for neglect the weakness, and C for cultivate appreciation. Now the third aspect, tolerating dualities. We have discussed about tolerating criticism. What was the abbreviation for criticism? ICS. Improve, careful, and shelter. Take shelter of the holy names of the Lord. Develop your inner strength. And then tolerating people, we talked about F and C. F, focus on the strength, neglect the weakness, and F and C. C for F and C, right? Yeah, cultivate appreciation, like that. Now we come to the third subject, dualities. Now, dualities means, just like Krishna said, hot and cold. In this world, there is nothing permanent. You're not going to be permanently young. You're going to grow old. This is duality. A classic example of duality is a coin. Head and tail are both a part of the same coin. So happiness and distress is nothing but the truth of the life. You just cannot expect that I'm always going to be happy. There's nobody who's always happy. There's nobody who's always suffering. But somebody can choose to be suffering always. And similarly, somebody can make a choice to be happy always. Booker T. Washington, African American person, he was born at a time where there was a lot of racial discrimination. When he was a teenager, he was put behind the bars for his lifetime for no fault of his, no offense of his. They were just picked up from the street. He grew up and became a great philosopher. He writes something which was quoted by my spiritual master, and I'm quoting what I heard from my spiritual master, which created a deep impression on my consciousness. And Booker T. Washington, despite going through so much turmoil, injustice in his life, he's been put behind the prison bar for all his lifetime. His whole youth, childhood, and the young age has been destroyed because of some faulty, blames or the claims or the crime. And he was never given a right to defend himself because he was an African American. That was a racial discrimination. And he says something very profound in one of his books that he writes. And he says, I would never let anyone kill my soul by making me hate them. Pretty profound. Think about it. I would repeat again. He said, I would never let anyone kill my soul by making me hate them. Hatred towards others, according to him, when he said was, I'm just going to kill myself, which means you cannot hate somebody and not be depressed yourself. Yes or no? When you say I dislike you, you're more trouble than the other person because you always keep on thinking about what wrong he did to you. Hai na? Therefore, Booker T. Washington said, I would never let anyone kill my soul by making me hate them. So, dualities, understand this is the truth of the world. For example, just like if you want to study, you go to Vidyalaya, you know, or what you call as you want a book, you go to Pustakalaya. You know, if you want to play around with snow, you go to Himalaya. Said like that. Alaya means the house. Similarly, Lord Shri Krishna defines this material world as Dukhalaya. Now, if you go to Pustakalaya, you're not supposed to get medicine there, isn't it? You're supposed to get books. Similarly, when you come to Dukhalaya, can you get Sukha? That is not the function of Dukhalaya. It is designed for Dukha only. So that is the aspect that we need to understand. This is the nature of the world, which we cannot change. Calamities continues to come, cannot change it. Something on a lighter side. This world is full of surprises. A young man and woman were about to get married. So the girl sent a message to a to-be husband. Sorry, I cannot get married to you. So the Mangetar was surprised. You know, he said, अरे अभी भी शादी फिक्स हुई है 3 दिन के बाद शादी अब आज मैसेज आ रहा है शादी नहीं कर सकती तो उसने रिप्लाई करा what happened and the second reply came sorry गलती से आपको भेज दिया I mean joke apart okay so anyways Hare Krishna so dualities and calamities. Srila Prabhupada makes a very profound statement when it comes to facing calamities. And he says, who is a great person? People like to become great in their own ways, some or other, but what actually is greatness? Is greatness to have a lot of money? Is greatness means name, fame, a lot of possessions? No, Srila Prabhupada says greatness of a person is known by his ability to tolerate the most provoking situations. Greatness of a person is known by the ability to tolerate provoking situation. Therefore, there is a term called as Godasa and Goswami. Go means senses. Dasa means servant of the senses. Goswami means the master of the senses. So, who is great? Goswami or Godasa? Goswami is a great. Now, you can be filthy rich. You can be the richest person in this world. If you are a Godasa, is that your greatness? Not at all. Simple example. Arjuna, the most favorite pastime of all of Arjuna's activities is when he went to heaven, when he went to his father's place, Indralok. And Urvashi got attracted towards Arjuna, who is said to be the most beautiful woman in the whole creation because she was created from the body of Narayan Rishi himself. And she came to Arjuna and proposed that we should enjoy. Now, Arjuna was from the earthly planet, and Urvashi was from the heavenly planet, and she was the most beautiful woman in the whole creation. She comes and tells him in the most seductress way in the middle of the night, where the lust is at its peak because of the darkness. At that point in time, she comes and knocks on the door of Arjuna. And she said, let us enjoy. What did Arjuna said? Oh. Now, Urvashi, because this is a heavenly woman, she have very, very long life. So she had got married to one of the great ancestors of Arjuna. And Arjuna said, oh, my dear lady, I always saw you as a mother because I am born in your Vansha. How can I even think of enjoying with you? And Urvashi said, Hari bol, ये सब यहाँ नहीं चलता. ये heaven है. यहाँ पे जो ये अर्थली रूल्स रेगुलेशन नहीं चलते हैं, नो, कोई वंश वंश का मतलब ही नहीं है. There are different terms and conditions there. So she argued. Arjuna did not got tempted by her moves. He said, "No, I have seen you only as a mother. There is no other thing possible." And Urushi got so upset that she cursed Arjuna that you will become a eunuch. And then when Indra got to know of it, he told Urushi to reduce the punishment. She cannot take the curse back. And then Urushi said, all right, he'll have to remain a eunuch for 1 year. Second, I give him the choice to decide that 1 year when he wants to become eunuch. And that's how when he came back as a part of the Agyatwas, Arjuna chose that boon, the curse, which became a boon for Arjuna to hide his identity. Brahannala. Arjuna became a Brahannala because of this curse. Let me give you one example. I gave you an example of Arjuna. Let me give you an example of one king. Nothing on the slide right now. There was a king who was traveling through the jungle, and suddenly a big stone came and hit on his head, and a stream of blood started oozing out. And all the soldiers got alerted. Kisne pheka? Kisne pheka patthar? Kisne pheka? And they went inside the bushes, and across the tree is a huge tree, fruit tree, and around the other side they saw an old lady wearing ragged clothes, old, unkempt, and they caught her and brought her in front of the king. And they said, "Sir, my dear king, we have found the culprit. She is the one who hit your head with a stone." And the king was considerate. He looked at the woman. He said, "Why did you hit me?" And the woman said, "My dear king, I was not hitting you. You look at this fruit tree. I am hungry. I have not eaten anything. So I was throwing stones at the fruit so they can fall on the ground so I can consume it. But one of the stone missed the branch and it came and hit you. It was not my intention." Immediately the king climbed down from the horse with the tears in his eyes. He said, looking at the tree and then looking at the soldiers, he said, "If a tree who serves you, despite being hit by the stones, gives you the fruit, how much as a king I should be forbearing when I'm supposed to provide for my citizens." And he awarded that woman for teaching him such a valuable lesson. As a king, as a leader, we should exercise this quality of tolerance. You're supposed to. Otherwise, how can you take care of praja? And that was a lesson he drew. As a tree, fruit tree, you throw a stone, the tree would not throw back a stone at you, will throw back a fruit at you, will continue to serve. So as a king, as a parent, as a spiritual leader, how much we should exercise tolerance. And you know who was this king who drew this beautiful lesson? Was none other whose anniversary we are celebrating. That was Shivaji Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So when we think we are tolerating others, our head grows big. When we know that we need to tolerate ourselves, our heart becomes big. Tolerance is an ornament of a broad-minded person, which means one who can empathize. So Shivaji Maharaj did not tolerate the lady, he just tolerated himself, and that is why his heart became big. If you would have thought, I am tolerating you. No, he did not. He understood the pain is mine. So I need to tolerate myself rather than saying that I am tolerating you. And we have many examples of saintly people like that. Haridas Thakur was beaten in 22 marketplaces and he tolerated. He never said to those who were beating him that I'm tolerating you. And when he was thrown into the river being considered dead, he came back and saved the lives of same people who wanted to kill him. Jesus Christ is also attributed with a similar incident where they say that how Jesus, was praying to the Lord, "My dear Lord, these sinners do not know what sin they're committing. Please forgive them." So this quality of empathy requires broad-mindedness. I'll repeat that. The quality of empathy. Sympathy and empathy, there is a difference. I hope you understand. To sympathize, to acknowledge the suffering. To empathize, to feel the suffering. I'll repeat again. Sympathize, to acknowledge the suffering. Empathize, to feel the suffering. We can only empathize when a person is broad-minded, and tolerance is an ornament of a broad-minded person, which means who can empathize. And how can we do so? It is only possible when we have that connection with the Supreme Lord, something higher and greater than us. Nashti buddhir ayuktasya na chayuktasya bhavana na cha bhavay yatha shantir ashantasya kutha sukham. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So we are discussing the theory. The practical would not happen unless we have access to the higher powers. We have access to the higher wisdom. We have access to the higher strength, which means we have access to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how do we have access to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Scripture says the means for accessing the higher power is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Kalera dosha nidhe rajan asti hi ek mahan gunaha kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param rajet. Kalir dosha, this Kali Yuga is filled with faults, but there is only one good thing, and that is Kirtana. Kirtan of whom? Krishna. One who takes every day, chants the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukta Sangha Param Vraje. Such a person becomes liberated from all the sufferings, from all the troubles in this life. And there is no perfect example than Srila Prabhupada. For Srila Prabhupada to give what we have today had to undergo tremendous amount of inconveniences and troubles. Because he could tolerate all those, therefore we are here today. He went single-handedly by himself on a maiden trip to America when nobody was there to receive him, with 40 rupees in his pocket. He lived through the cold and the chilly winter with a hope Krishna will reciprocate and give me the strength to fulfill the order of my spiritual master. So much calamity, so much crisis on his maiden trip. He got 2 heart attacks. He could have thought, let me return back. He did not have food to eat. He did not have sufficient clothes. In the chilly winters of New York, Srila Prabhupada did not even have a thermal wear. He did had an overcoat, but he never had any thermal wear to wear. Can you imagine? You understand I wear a dhoti? So Swamiji was wearing a dhoti and walking on the street of a chilly New York winter without even a thermal wear. You cannot even walk with your jeans, which is still more tight than the dhoti. Srila Prabhupada underwent and tolerated all that. That to a 70-year-old man who have got a 2 heart attack. Isn't there an obvious question comes? So what gave him strength to tolerate so many inconveniences? And what did he do for himself? Did he build a palace for himself? What would you do at the fig end of your life, 70-year-old plus? So that was all meant for others. But what gave him that strength? The connection with the higher power. The connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like, I'll conclude with a simple example. People draw water from a well. So you switch on a motor, you extract water. But imagine when the water is over there, and then that motor will start making noise. Because there's no water in the well. It'll get heated up. If there is no weight to pull, our situation is like that. Trying to make a name, trying to work in this world. Now, why the well becomes empty? if it is totally disconnected with the underground water or with the river or with the ocean, it will become empty. But if it is connected with the bigger resource of water, would it ever become empty? Because it is not having a connection with the bigger resource of water, it will gradually become empty and that will make noise. That's the reason people make so much noise. If you don't believe me, switch on 8 o'clock, watch any news channel. You'll find plenty of people making plenty of noises on the TV, isn't it? They're just like a heated up motor. They have no substance to offer and they come and teach and want to teach the world what they have to offer. Such is a similar condition with each one of us. They are sitting on a big platform creating noises. We are in our life creating noises around. Prabhupada didn't do that. Prabhupada never found fault with others. Mr. Reuben, a bus conductor, Prabhupada was sitting in a Tompkins Square Park one evening, and this Mr. Reuben, seeing that some effulgent person came and sat next to him, and he said, "So where are you from?" Prabhupada said, "I'm from India." "Who are you?" "I'm a founder, acharya of an international society." Prabhupada did not knew where he's going to go and take rest in the night. That was the situation. He said, "I'm a founder, acharya of international society." Mr. Reuben was surprised. "Oh, really? A founder, acharya of international society sitting all alone? Can you tell us about your organization?" He said, "We have hundreds of temples all over the world. I have hundreds and thousands of followers all over the world. We have thousands of books being distributed and published all over the world." Mr. Reuben could not believe because it was unbelievable, yet he could not doubt because the sanctity of that person was such. And Srila Prabhupada did that all? Yes or no? Without creating a noise or making a noise. Because he was always connected with the higher source. So does we can solve the problems of life if we are connected with the greatest source. And that greatest source is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we connect, make our relationship with Him by chanting the holy names of the Lord once again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. इसी के साथ आज के सत्र को ही समाप्त करते हैं. What is tolerance? When to tolerate 3 situations, and how to tolerate criticism, people, dualities, and calamities. And with the conclusion, we can only do all this thing. बोलने में तो बहुत अच्छा लगता है, but the matter of fact is all possible when we are connected with the higher source. And that is with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The greater our connection, to that degree these qualities would get manifested. With that, I thank you all for your kind attention for all this while. Today we conclude our mind management course now. We'll announce what we're going to start next. As I said, would not be online, would be offline only. We'll put an asterisk condition. No recordings would be made available later on. So no YouTube channel and all that. So people won't make an excuse. अरे प्रभु जी, anyways आप upload कर ही देते हो ना, तो बाद में देख लेंगे. So we'll close all that window. So next time thinking we'll start after having a little philosophical discussion. We'll go into through some beautiful stories. We'll have a next program called as Light of the Bhagavad, which will be based on Srimad Bhagavatam, where I'll be picking and choosing 24 stories from the ancient times of our Vedic culture, which would go as back as to the beginning of this creation from Brahma, and anecdotes and stories. We'll discuss the culture, we'll discuss the stories, we'll discuss the lessons, and they're very, very relishable. That is what we're going to have it. I might take a while to make an announcement another 1 or 2 weeks because I have some schedules already fixed for this whole month. But somewhere of the middle of March is where I'm aiming to start it. Maybe around Guru Purnima or after that. Until then, you have all your time. If in case you have missed any of the session, go through and review with it. And also, we're going to have another set of program we are starting is Become a Spiritual Scientist. That program would be limited for teenage boys. But I'm changing the age duration of teenage boys. I don't call them from 13. I'm going to enroll from 12 plus. Maybe 11 in particular situation. And this would be a very, very particular group, which I would be handpicking and training it personally. So I'll be taking interviews for it. There's going to be a serious program for it where we'll have an in-house training. Once in a quarter, they come and stay with me for a week. We'll have a retreat and all that. So we're going to organize all that kind of an event. That's another upcoming thing. I'll make an announcement of it. That planning has happened here. That has to get manifest in the paper. I didn't have the time. So when this program is over, we'll do that. And all of you, I hope some of you might be connected with our Bhagavad Life or Bhagavad Prakash program, which is going on. In case if not, at least hear the lectures.